Heyo, what's happening? Eric Pashia here with the Canine, and welcome back to our journey through Karen Overall's dog relaxation protocol. We are on part 2, talking about days 6 through 10 to help Chester get comfortable settling on a mat with a bunch of different distractions. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, make sure you watch our part 1 where we go over the protocol itself and days 1 through 5 with Chester. But without further ado, let's get to it. Sit for 10 seconds. Sit for 20 seconds while you jog back and forth in front of the dog. Yes. Sit for 15 seconds. Yes. Walk to an entrance and return. Yes. Walk quickly backwards, clapping your hands and return. Yes. Go to an entrance and touch the doorknob and return. Yes. Sit for 20 seconds while jogging. Yes. Walk around the dog. Yes. Walk around the dog, clapping your hands. Yes. Sit for 15 seconds. Yes. Sit for 20 seconds. Yes. Sit for 30 seconds. Yes. Walk quickly backwards, clapping your hands in return. Go to an entrance and touch the doorknob and return. Yes. Open the door or go into the entrance for 5 seconds and then return. Okay, let's try again. Clear your place. Yes. That's a fail. That's another fail. Yes. Good. Yes, very good. Open the door or go into the entrance for 10 seconds and return. Yes. Sit for 30 seconds. Yes. Walk quickly backwards, clapping your hands, and return. Yes. Go to an entrance and touch the doorknob and return. Yes. Sit for 10 seconds. Yes. Go through the door or entranceway and then return. Yes. Go through the door, clapping your hands, and return. Yes. the door for 10 seconds and return. Yes. Sit for 30 seconds. Yes. Disappear from view for 5 seconds and then return. Yes. Sit for 20 seconds. Yes. Sit for 10 seconds while you clap your hands. Yes. Sit for 5 seconds. Yes. Very good. Well done, Chester. Come here. Very good, buddy. Well, there you have it, folks. Day 6 for Chester, and he did excellent. So this was our first day with the second camera, so you guys get to see a little bit of a different angle as I make myself a fool going through these different protocol tasks here. But Chester did fantastic. This was his first day where we got from him a full head down, looked away, hips cocked, relaxed, which is awesome because that is exactly what we're looking for as we progress through these things. So you can see that Chester is making these connections about what he's supposed to do, what relax looks like. And frankly, you know, if he gets bored and shows us some of that relaxing behavior, that's exactly what we want from him, because then we're rewarding him time and time again as we're doing other difficult things. Now, we did struggle with the door. So the first time we opened that in full, he came off of his mat. He did that a couple of times. I thought that we were gonna have a total fail here, but we modified just a little bit. I opened the door a little bit when it asks us to, and then by the end of that day, I was opening it fully and kind of doing the full spirit of what the task was asking for today. So I'd recommend, if you're finding similar hurdles as you're going through this protocol, do those little modifications, right? There's nothing wrong with tweaking these things as we go to make sure that your dog can be successful, and then kind of doing the full-blown spirit of that as we go forward. But Chester's really starting to make those connections, and I'm so excited for him. Sit for 10 seconds. Yes. Sit for 20 seconds while you clap your hands. Yes. Takes 10 steps backwards and return. Yes. Walk around the dog. Go through a door or entranceway and then return. Yes. Go through the door or entranceway, clapping your hands, and return. Yes. Good. Okay. Go to your place. That's a fail, but that's my fault. We're going to try that again. Go through a door or entranceway and then return, clapping your hands. Yes. Open the door or go into the entrance for 10 seconds and then return. Yes. Sit for 30 seconds. Yes. Disappear from view for 5 seconds and then return. Yes. Go through the door and entranceway and return. Yes. Go through the door or entranceway, clapping your hands, and then return. Yes. Open the door and go into the entranceway for 10 seconds and then return. Go back to your place. That's a fail. Down. Yes. Sit for 10 seconds. Yes. Sit for 20 seconds. Yes. Sit for 30 seconds. Yes. Disappear from view for 10 seconds and then return. Yes. Disappear from view for 15 seconds and then return. Yes. Sit for 10 seconds. Yes. Sit for 15 seconds. Yes. Sit for 5 seconds while you clap your hands. Yes. Jog in place for 10 seconds. Yes. Jog 3/4 away around the dog to the right and return. Yes. Jog 3/4 of the way around the dog to the left and return. Yes. Go through the door or entranceway, clapping your hands and return. Yes. Open the door or go through the entranceway for 10 seconds and return. That's a fail. Okay, buddy. You can go back to your place. Very good. Down. Yes. Gonna retry. Sit for 30 seconds. Yes. Disappear from view for 15 seconds and return. Yes. Sit for 10 seconds. Yes. Sit for 5 seconds. Yes.
Well done. Good job, buddy. Yeah, baby.
Now that's a wrap on day 7, and we're still getting some fantastic behaviors from Chester. Now there's a little bit of tail wiggling when he's relaxing, which is not ideal, but all in all, kind of the package of behaviors that he's giving me on the mat on these days is fantastic. I'm still seeing a lot of sensitivity around the door for him, and so I'm being very careful and specific about how I'm doing some of those door-related activities. But I think that it's really beneficial for us when we're getting packages out of the front door that I can now kind of reliably, just because of what we've done here, ask him to wait on his mat, go outside, grab that package, come back in and release him from that mat, which is awesome. I did want to point out one failure, again, user error here or handler error here. That was, I marked him as I was coming back, and the technical task is, go out, come back and return, and then you're going to be marking with that yes. I actually marked with a yes on the way there, which prompted him to come to me. So it's really important that I still keep up my good kind of trainer handler mechanics to make sure that he's getting the full idea and that I'm being consistent with him in his training. But on to day 8. Sit for 10 seconds. Yes. Sit for 15 seconds while you jog and clap your hands. Yes. Circle the dog and return. Yes. Disappear from view for 20 seconds and return. Yes. Disappear from view for 25 seconds and return. Yes. Sit for 5 seconds in a chair. Sit for 5 seconds. Sit for 15 seconds while you jog and clap your hands. Back up 15 steps and return. Circle the dog and return. Disappear from view for 20 seconds and return. Disappear from view for 30 seconds and return. Sit for 5 seconds. Circle the dog and return. Disappear from view for 20 seconds and return. Disappear from view for 25 seconds and return. Sit for 5 seconds in a chair near the dog. Disappear from view for 10 seconds, sit in the chair for 5 seconds, and return. Sit for 10 seconds. Sit for 20 seconds while you jog and clap. Sit for 15 seconds while you run around. Yes. Sit for 10 seconds. Yes. Sit for 5 seconds while you turn around. Yes. Sit for 5 seconds in a chair near the dog. Yes. Disappear from view for 10 seconds, sit in the chair for 5 seconds, and return. Yes. Yes. Sit for 10 seconds. Yes.
Well done. Very good, buddy.
And that's day 8. Not a ton to say here. Chester continues to find these good repetitions in which he's showing relaxed behavior, which is really positive. I did make one mistake by not doing the full task. I kind of treated in the middle of it when I returned to my chair. But hey, those kinds of things happen. This doesn't have to be perfect by any means. It's kind of spirit of the law instead of letter of the law, and Chester doesn't know any different, so I'm counting that as a win. Sit for 5 seconds. Yes. Sit for 10 seconds while you turn around. Yes. Sit for 5 seconds while you jog. Yes. Walk around the dog. Yes. Jog around the dog. Yes. Jog around the dog, clapping your hands. Yes. Jog twice around the dog. Yes. Sit for 10 seconds. Yes. Sit for 15 seconds while you clap your hands. Yes. Sit for 20 seconds. Yes. Move 3/4 away around the dog to the right and return. Yes. Move 3/4 of the way around the dog to the left and return. Yes. Disappear from view for 10 seconds and return. Yes. Circle the dog and return. Yes. Disappear from view for 20 seconds and return. Yes. Disappear from view for 25 seconds and return. Yes. Sit for 5 seconds in a chair near the dog. Yes. Disappear from view for 10 seconds, sit in a chair for 5 seconds, and return. Yes. Sit for 10 seconds. Yes. Bend down and touch your toes. Yes. Stretch your arms. Yes. Stretch your arms and jump once. Yes. Touch your toes 5 times. Yes. Stretch your arms and jump 3 times. That's a fail. Come on, Chester. Go back down. Yes. Very good. Stretch your arms and jump 3 times. Yes. Sit for 15 seconds. Yes. Sit for 5 seconds. Yes.
Very good.
There you have it for day 9. Chester did amazing. One little fail there is I was kind of jumping around being a fool. I had some papers in my hand that really kind of freaked him out. He's really sensitive to those kinds of sounds. And in this case, as I was hopping around, that was just too much for him. But other than that, we're getting some really good repetitions from Chester and things are going quite well. Sit for 5 seconds and clap. Yes. Sit for 10 seconds while you touch your toes. Yes. Sit for 15 seconds while you sit in a chair. Yes. Walk quickly 15 steps to the right and return. Yes. Walk quickly 15 steps to the left and return. Yes. Walk 20 steps to an entrance and return. Yes. Leave the dog's view for 5 seconds and return. Yes. Leave the dog's view for 10 seconds and return. Yes. Leave the dog's view for 15 seconds and return. Yes. Sit for 10 seconds. Yes. Sit for 5 seconds. Yes. Walk quickly 15 steps to the right and return. Yes. Walk quickly 15 steps to the left and return. Yes. Walk approximately 20 steps to an entrance and return. Yes. Leave the dog's view for 5 seconds and return. Yes. Leave the dog's view for 10 seconds and return. Yes. Leave the dog's view for 15 seconds and return. Yes. Leave the dog's view for 5 seconds, knock softly on the wall, and return. Yes. Sit for 5 seconds. Yes. Leave the dog's view for 5 seconds and return. Yes. Leave the dog's view for 15 seconds and return. 10 seconds and return. Yes. Leave the dog's view for 15 seconds and return. Yes. Leave the dog's view for 5 seconds, knock softly on the wall, and return. Yes. Leave the dog's view, quickly knock softly on the wall, and return. Yes. Sit for 5 seconds. Yes. Leave the dog's view for 10 seconds, knock softly on the wall, and return. Yes. Sit for 10 seconds. Yes. Sit for 5 seconds. Yes. All right, all done. Very good. And that's a wrap on day 10 and this part of the protocol. Chester is doing fantastic. We even had some added non-protocol related distractions today. Erica was on one of her training consults with a client, as well as people working and kind of banging around doing construction related stuff across the street. Usually a huge trigger for Chester, but we're really cementing in this work for him that he's able to be relaxed in the state of a bunch of different distractions. So he's doing fantastic, and we're so happy to be sharing these days and trials here with you. Well, there you have it, folks. Days 6 through 10 of Karen Overall's dog relaxation protocol. I hope the videos like this are helpful for you to kind of come back to as you're working with your own dog, to see how I'm modeling things where some things are challenging in our experience, because certainly you're gonna have challenging experiences there with your dog as well. If you're enjoying our videos, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to our channel so that you can stay up to date when we post not only the third part of this, but also other videos to help strengthen and energize the relationship with your dog. Bye for now.